Well, hello Spurs fans. Welcome back to the channel with me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, hit this video with a like, and you can even turn on the bell notification so you get notified when the next video goes live. So, we're a little bit happier today, aren't we? We're going to talk through that 2-0 victory over Aston Villa away at Villa Park in the Premier League, which puts us up to 6th in the table, gives us a good chance to reach that top 4 if teams start to make a mistake. And as we saw, West Ham made a mistake, 3-0 up, and they ended up drawing the game 3-all. So there are teams that will make mistakes, take their foot off the gas. Chelsea is still within reach, so hopefully we can keep things going. And it was just a nice reaction to the way that we've played recently, which we were all asking for. So we'll talk about, as usual, the lineup, talking points of the game. We'll go through what was said in the interviews after the game by the manager and players, and a little bit of a summary of what we thought of the players individually. Well, the lineup couldn't have been more different than we thought, could it? I mean, I said he may shake things up because of it, but knowing Mourinho, I think most of us thought that he wouldn't make too many changes because of the risk involved. But actually, it's kind of the perfect scenario to take the risks if you think about it. You know, we've had 2 very poor performances, a massive letdown to the club and everything that we come to expect. So if you play the same players again and don't get the reaction, he's going to get a lot of flack. Whereas, if you change the team around enough so it can effectively create an excuse if we don't play too well. As long as they try, if we get beaten, there's always the excuse that these guys haven't played together as much as a team. There's been a lot of changes within, so it's going to take a while to gel in that sense. So it gives you that fallback if things go wrong. But at the same time, as I've said, there's plenty of players that need minutes and will be hungry. But he didn't quite go the way I thought he would with that. Because if we look at the lineup, Hugo stayed in goal, which we thought would happen anyway. Reggie on left back, which was predicted. Sanchez retained his position, which I expected. However, Joe Rodon partners him. Now, he hadn't played in, I think it was, 13 games? Obviously, he's not in the Europa League squad for whatever reason. But yeah, it's been 13 games in the Premier League that he hadn't played for. But he came into the squad to partner Davinson Sanchez. And then on the right, no Doherty, no Aurier, Tanganga, who Jose has said he feels is a right back. And still there's question marks from me and some others. We feel he could potentially develop into the centre back that we want for the future. But for now, if he's going to get game time playing at right back, by all means, let it happen. I mean, that's a very young defence. Very young. Considering Sanchez, I think he's 24? The oldest person in that defence to take charge. You know, fair game Mourinho. That is a big risk with such a young back line. Then Højbjerg 100% had to play no matter what. Tanguy did start next to him like we thought. He enjoys him in that deeper position. And you also had Lo Celso and Lucas. And more surprisingly, Vinicius and Kane. I did say in the last video he could go with Vinicius. I didn't think it was actually going to happen. He keeps saying he likes him, but the problem is if Kane's fit, Kane's going to play. Of all the big players that were dropped, he was the last man that you're going to drop. You know, if you leave him out of a squad and it's not because of an injury, there's no chance he's staying come that summer transfer window. But the fact is, it's a new system. You know, when you look at those players like that, essentially it's a 4-4-2. But it's not. It's very adaptable because we know with Vinicius there is a chance Harry Kane will drop deeper, which he did throughout this game. So it kind of creates that same midfield that we're used to, although it's less fluid because Lo Celso's not a winger. He's very much a central player. Lucas can play anywhere across that. But, you know, very different lineup. So if we look at the bench, Hart, Dyer, Dele, Bale, Davies, Bergwijn, Sissoko, Alfie Devine, Dane Scarlett. Interesting. Couple of youngsters in there. no Doherty, no Aurier. Obviously, we know Lamella's suspended. So what's going on there? We'll explain later. But anyway, yeah, that's the lineup. Very interesting. We'll jump into a little bit about the game. So Villa start the game the more dominant. They were for about the first half hour. Now, I didn't have too many complaints because you've got to understand with a back line that's that inexperienced together, and Sanchez has only hit some sort of form. Now, he's not a natural leader. We know that. He has to be next to somebody that's going to lead him, which is why I think he'd suffered where you had Alderweireld and Dyer interchanging all the game. And Lloris wasn't always the most vocal with what he wanted from his centre-backs. But he did a good job. But you've got to understand, this team, especially in the shape we're in, with two strikers as well, it was going to take time for them to get settled. And also, there were players on that pitch that did play a lot of minutes against Zagreb. Some of them played against Arsenal as well. So there's a good chunk of minutes in the legs of these players. That extra half hour in Zagreb, do not get me wrong, will have affected some of these players. They still would have been a bit tired. But yeah, Villa dominated sort of like the first part of the game. And then we get that goal. And I'm very, very happy for Carlos Vinicius. He gets the goal. And he does a lot of work in this as well, because he closes down the keeper, which forces him to have to just clear the ball. It's not a very good clearance because he was under pressure. Goes to one of his players, but there's that man once again, Lucas Moura, with that press that has gained us a few goals in recent weeks. He presses, plays the ball into Kane, continues his run down the left-hand side. Kane slots him through with a beautifully weighted pass. Then Lucas Moura, as the keeper comes rushing over towards him, defenders come to him, slots the ball gently across the box, and there he is, Carlos Vinicius, with a lovely little tap in. But don't get me wrong, he still had to make sure he was there. And there we are, 1-0. Good bit of play, hard work Moura, good ball, Harry Kane. Good concentration, Lucas Moura. Nice easy tap in for Carlos Vinicius just before his 26th birthday. And if you weren't watching the game, go find the clip, because the way he celebrates the goal, there was just so much passion. He's like, ah, slaps the post. No doubt that must have hurt his hand. But, you know, there was just passion. He was so happy. And I'm happy for him. He's needed minutes. And for me, he proves himself in front of goal. He may be a bit quiet in certain parts of the game, but I feel that's because he doesn't have the minutes to adapt and get himself settled into games. He's had the time, and this is what happens. So there we go. Slow start over. We have a goal. And Aston Villa, they didn't have a single shot in the first half. So despite the fact that they dominated a lot of the first half, they made a lot of advancements down our right-hand side, there was no end product. Defensively, I mean, they were fairly good. It just come down to a bit of pressure on the goalkeeper for the first goal. But there is no final product. They were getting themselves in good positions, but there's no shot. So are they a threat on goal? They're not. They've just got nice build-up play, and that was it. So, I mean, even when I was watching the first half, I was sitting there thinking we're being absolutely dominated. And it wasn't until they mentioned at half-time that they hadn't had a shot that I was like, oh my God. So essentially we're being beaten in this game in one sense, but it came to nothing. There never was any real danger. And there we are. Second half comes. They finally have a shot. 58 minutes it took for Aston Villa to have their first shot. That's crazy. 10 minutes on from that, we get that second goal. Harry Kane, penalty. Harry Kane steps up for a penalty, and there is no doubt that he's going to put the ball in the back of the net. Beautiful penalty. And he always almost either hits the side netting or is very close into that bottom corner. Keeper had no chance of saving it. I didn't sit there for a second and doubt that we weren't going to be 2-0 up from this. And there's been a lot of talk about this penalty. We're talking the pundits, the commentators, a little bit on Ref Watch on Sky Sports. And I think they've all kind of got it a little bit wrong. They're trying to say that Harry Kane wasn't in control of the ball and things like that. I think with the intelligence of Harry Kane, he knows full well that ball's coming through. He's not going to get there. So what he does, he cleverly steps over the ball, continues moving, and he knows a challenge is going to be coming in. He has no intention of touching that ball whatsoever. He knows the moment's gone. If he gets the ball, the player makes the challenge, whatever. Instead, he does what he does. He is a good few yards away from the ball, and then Matty Cash comes crashing in, can't pull out the challenge, and we have a penalty. I think it's very clever play from him to do that. And yeah, we get the penalty. We're now 2-0 up. Now, I think my favourite part of this whole game was the attitude. We have seen time and time again, when we take the lead in the game, we allow teams to come on to us. And that didn't happen here. There was a lot of hunger and desire from the players. Normally what's happened is we kind of try and shut up shop, go defensive. Not the case. We battled and battled and battled, carried on pushing. Everyone was getting behind the ball when they had to. Carlos Vinicius and Harry Kane were both in our box for a lot of the corners. They were deep for free kicks and things like that. And I agree with Vinicius being in the box. For those of you that don't know, in his career, he was a centre-back before becoming a striker. He's got very, very good game intelligence when he's inside the box. There was a moment where he was sort of the last man on our left-hand side and the ball was coming in, and he has very good intelligence at making sure that there's enough distance between him and his man, so if it doesn't come that far, he can get it. But if the ball does drift across, he can make a run with his man. He's very intelligent in the box. He's very good with his head. Harry Kane, we know, wins a hell of a lot of headers in our box defensively. So them two, they really did their job. And I'm very, very happy with the commitment and attitude of everyone. We did see Reguilon go off after 57 minutes. It seemed to be an injury. He went in for a challenge and got his foot stamped on, just on the outside of his foot. And I think that was bugging him for a little while. So the challenge that came in where he went off, was it like a knee to the back or something like that? Yeah, it might have been. But that's not important. The fact is that wasn't the injury. I think it was still the foot, the reason he went off. Davies come on, and we know from a defensive perspective what we're going to get from Davies. We were 2-0 up. He's a good guy to help us protect the lead. On 66 minutes, we see Bergwijn come on for Lo Celso. That's a sensible substitution. Lo Celso's still trying to feel his way back after the injury. Bergwijn has loads of energy, so he's now on. And he actually had a lovely moment where he broke down the left with the ball. He's come a long way after making the challenge, knocks it round the player, off he goes, left him for dead. He runs all the way deep into the box. And all he had to do was look up and slot it across, and we probably would have had another goal. Now, there's been people criticising Bergwijn for all sorts of things. The hunger and desire is there, and as I keep saying, the guy just needs a goal. And I think that's why we're seeing him be a bit selfish at times instead of passing the ball, because he's so desperate to get that goal. He's not looking at the other options. And I think in this run, there was probably 2 opportunities to pass. When, as he was approaching the edge of the box, he could have, and as he went down towards the keeper. But in the end, it just came to absolutely nothing. And a great move ended up looking really poor. But it wasn't. He just desperately wants that goal. And I think once he gets it, we've got a different player in our hands. And he needs that for his confidence. But unfortunately, he's not getting the minutes, which means he hasn't been able to score this goal. I'm sure if he'd have had more minutes, he may have had a goal by now. But, with this performance from the team, we could see him get some more minutes because Mourinho obviously doesn't trust certain players. And then the last substitution we saw was very close to the end of the game. Sissoko coming on for Tanguy. Ndombele, he's a player that we see come off quite a lot. I think Jose just likes to protect him. If he's not needed on the pitch anymore, why keep him on? I feel like he should do that more with Harry Kane and doesn't. But Tanguy's had his problems in the past, and he is a guy that we really need to keep fit. Because as we saw in the Arsenal and Dinamo Zagreb games, when Harry Kane's not on it, it's not the biggest loss in the world. He can still create something out of nothing. But when Tanguy's not on it, it really hurts us because he's in a very, very key position on the pitch. We've got other guys that can put the ball in the back of the net and hurt on the attack. But in that position, to leave somebody isolated, it just doesn't help us. So Tanguy, we have to keep him fresh. Sissoko, when he came on, did okay. He does his job. We know what we're going to get from him. And I suppose amongst that time where we continued to put on pressure, there was the last 10 minutes where Villa kind of turned it back on and really came at us again. And that's where you saw the bodies behind the ball. I think was it Ross Barkley took a shot right near the edge of the box, and there was 3 Spurs players that slid across, coming from different directions. I think Rodon was one of the guys that slid, Sanchez, and then Tanganga's the guy that actually made the block in the end. But there's that hunger and desire to make sure that we don't concede a goal late in the game. And that's what we've been missing recently. I think right at the beginning of the season, although we weren't playing the most attractive football, but we were picking up victories, that was the commitment that we had from all the players, playing as a team, fighting for one another, and that's what we had here. And that was really the game. So Villa dominated to start with. We kind of hit them because we pressed them into a situation and a mistake. We grew into the game, we got the penalty, we continued to grow, continued to fight as a team, and got the victory. So if we run through the players that were on the pitch and just talk about them, Hugo Lloris, he didn't have much to do really, which is a good thing. The fact they had no shots in the first half tells you everything you need to know. So, can't really judge too much on his performance. Reguilon, for me, it was actually a fairly poor game from him. I'm wondering if he was still tired from the last game. Then obviously he took a knock and come off. But it wasn't a massive problem. That's where they had the most of their joy. So, he let him in a few times and he did look tired, and that's what I'm going to put it down to, because we know on his day he's fantastic, and it certainly wouldn't be for lack of passion, because going forward, he was very good. And he always is going forward. So I think maybe the amount of sprints he was making kind of wore him down a little bit, and unfortunately it meant his defensive work suffered. And Aston Villa, they are very fluid up top. They are. The players play well together. They're just not putting the ball in the back of the net for whatever reason. Tanganga, I felt like he worked very, very hard. He was good defensively. He made some really good blocks, a lot of commitment. He didn't get forward loads. Obviously, you've got Reguilon on the other side who does. And Jose doesn't like both to keep going at the same time because it can leave us short. But the moments when he did get forward, he did look comfortable on the ball. As we saw last season, he's a very good player who will have a big future if we can keep him fit and if he gets the game time. So happy with him. Joe Rodon, he had a fairly comfortable game. I thought he played well next to Sanchez. They're both young. They've both got decent speed. They read the game well. Sanchez, although it wasn't his best game in recent games, I think it's because he felt more pressure being the most experienced at the back out of everyone, and he had to take control. So for that, I'm actually impressed with him because they've got the clean sheet, and he'll come away from that feeling very good that he was the senior player in that defence. He took charge, and we move forward. And I'm hoping that he can continue with this confidence and become an established centre-back. He did cost us an awful lot of money. He come through a very good academy, and there is a player there. And I just feel that for some reason it hasn't worked out for him. He's been in and out the side a lot in his Spurs career. And as I said, if he gets a run, I think we're going to see a much better centre-back, because in that run, you are going to make mistakes, and they have to happen. You can't learn if you don't make mistakes. So this is going to happen. Don't get on his back, guys, because he's still young, but there is a top player in there somewhere waiting to come out. Højbjerg, we know what we're going to get from him. It was a very good performance individually. He works very hard for the team. He's one of them leaders that we need. He always shows passion. When he makes a tackle, it doesn't even have to be a really important tackle, but he can just make one, and that is enough for him to have a mini celebration on his own and show his passion. Tanguy next to him, wasn't his best game in the world. He gave the ball away a decent amount with these passes, but the fact is he's looking for these passes, and normally when Sonny's on the pitch, you know what runs he's going to make. Lucas makes runs, but he's a very different player. Vinicius hasn't really been playing, so he's going to be hard to read on the pitch. He knows what he's going to get from Harry Kane. So yeah, I think Tanguy didn't have his best game, but he wasn't bad. We know he's fantastic on the ball. He's almost impossible to tackle. There was a lovely moment where he was out on the right-hand side and he's going down the wing by 2 players. He comes through them, does a lovely little pirouette round them and out. It was absolutely beautiful. He's majestic at times to watch. Then Lo Celso, he was okay. We know we're not going to get the best performances from him. He's only been back for 2 games now, so expect that it's going to take him a little bit of time to click with the team. And it's a different system we played to what we have been playing when he's been in the squad. So that would have been an adaptation for him to cope with as well. But, he's on the right path. He's back in the squad, linking up with players. That can only be a positive for us. Lucas Moura, man of the match. Another game with lots of pressing, lots of hard work, runs, and I feel like when he's in these tight spaces, he's so good on the ball. When he has no time to think, his natural instincts take over, and he's a fantastic dribbler. His passing somehow improves under pressure, and that's the guy we want. It's just when he's got a bit of time that he struggles a little bit. I think he overthinks it, and sometimes his feet are quicker than his brain. But, another great performance from him. Good pressing, helped us get the goal, good link-up play, had some really good moments later on. Very, very happy with him. Harry Kane, we know what we're going to get from him. Because he had another striker with him, he was able to drop deeper for that link-up play. And I feel like, him and Vinicius, they didn't start off with a great run, and that's because they don't play together. And as I said, I don't think they really train together. I think there's a striker on each team. So this was interesting, and as the game went on, it kind of suited him more because Vinicius is more of a traditional number 9. He will stay up there on the defence, he'll make his little runs, drag them across, create space, he can hold up the ball, which means Harry can come deeper and do what he needs to do, spread the play. And it means there's always an option for us in the box, which I feel sometimes we miss, because if Harry drops deep and he's a little bit wider, there's no one in the box because the other guys try and make the runs down the channels for straight balls or diagonal passes along the floor. Whereas with Vinicius, we have an option to put the ball in the air at all times. We didn't take advantage of that enough, I will say. There was plenty of situations where I felt we could have crossed the ball in because you had him and Kane in there. They're both a good height, both good with their heads. And I think it was just old habits. For the reasons we weren't putting these balls into the box, we're constantly trying to not walk the ball into the back of the net, but we want that nice, neat goal where there's good passes and a through ball. There's never enough in the air. But that will change if Vinicius gets more chances next to Kane. Jose, without a doubt, will be saying, you've got these two big guys in the box, use them. And then let's talk about Vinicius. For the fact that he hasn't been starting Premier League games. He's had very little minutes. I feel like this was a very good performance for him. He really helped us out of the back when he had to. He made a clever foul late on in the game and took a booking for it. He knew exactly what he was doing. We normally see this from Højbjerg. He's very good that when there's a break on and he's worried we're short, he will sort of nudge a player and take a card. This is what Vinicius did. He put in a performance for the team. Now, in these sort of games, he could be completely selfish because he needs to take his moment, but he didn't at all. He played for the team for the whole game and he got his goal and was involved in some good play. So I'm very happy for him, and hopefully we will see more of him. If not from the start, at least from the bench, but not this 10 minutes to go. Maybe he can be the first guy we bring on at the 60 minutes. Then obviously we've covered Bergwijn, Davies and Sissoko. They all did the job that was asked for them. Bergwijn needs a goal. Davies, we know what we're going to get. Sissoko, we know what we're going to get. They were the only subs made. Obviously, that's all 3 used. So if we talk about interviews after the game, Kane was spoken to, and what he had to say is pretty much recently we've not been good enough in all areas, but today we deserved the win. There was a very good attitude from everybody on the pitch. Everyone was fighting for one another until the final whistle. The run recently, it's been embarrassing. So as we saw, Hugo Lloris came out and said it was an absolute disgrace. Harry Kane has come out and said that it's been embarrassing recently. And you can understand a loss against Arsenal. You can understand a loss in Europe. But it's the manner in which we lost those games. There was no fight, no hunger, no passion. So Harry Kane has now come out as well, said it's been embarrassing. He said that he was happy for Carlos Vinicius to get his goal. That we didn't give Aston Villa too many chances in the game. And it's good to get the win before the international break. And it was nice to see Harry do an interview because he's not been doing them recently. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this. And it's almost like we've hidden him away because things haven't been going so well. I wonder if they keep him away from interviews in this time because the questions he's going to be asked are, if we don't win a trophy and we don't get into Europe, will you stay at Tottenham? And that puts a lot of pressure on him because if he comes out and says no and then goes, that doesn't look good. If he says yes, is there any point in playing him for the rest of the season? Because it puts, a doubt in the mind that we're playing this player who could essentially not be here next season. And if he says, we'll see, That's even worse because it just torments both sides. It's one of them where you want to know. So it's easier just to keep him away. But it was good to see him back and talking. Dean Smith's interview, he essentially said what I've already said, that, you know, they were better in the opening half hour, that a mistake is what led to the goal. He also reiterated the fact that they can't rely on Jack Grealish to make sure they win. And they actually put up the win percentages. With Jack Grealish in the team, they win about 50% of their games. Without Jack Grealish, they only win 17%. I mean, that's an incredible statistic. Now, I don't know if you can hear that, but outside the window, there's a lot of birds chirping and talking to one another. I'd ask them to be quiet, but I don't speak cheap. So apologies if you can hear them, and you have heard them for a little while now. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, 17% without Jack Grealish. That just tells you how important he is to their team. He also said that defensively they've been really good, which they have. Even today they were fairly good defensively. It was just, you know, us pressing them into a mistake and then the penalty. That's all it was. So from them defensively, they weren't terrible. They didn't make loads of mistakes. We didn't break them down loads. But attacking wise, he said, you know, they've been poor there. And yes and no. I mean, they haven't been getting the goals, but they certainly get themselves in positions to create the chances. I feel like their final ball and their shooting just hasn't been up to scratch. A bit like when I spoke about Crystal Palace. They were very good at getting themselves into positions to create a chance. It was just not really happening for them. And that's what's happening with Villa. Without Grealish, they just really lack that. And I feel like when Grealish isn't there, you don't see the best from Ross Barkley either. But yeah, all in all, that was his. And then Jose, he was a lot happier, obviously, because he took a risk and the risk paid off. He said there was incredible attitude. It was a team performance. The team played as a team. He wants us to play like that all the time. He said that along the lines of, we can't play like this as a reaction. This needs to be how we play all the time. It cannot be a reaction to a bad moment. And he's spot on with that. That's what I asked for in the last video just before the game. I said that if a player puts his all in and has to come off after 60 minutes because he's knackered, I'm more than happy for that, because he's put his all in, and then the next guy can come on and absolutely empty the tank with the remaining half hour. So yeah, he said he wants to be proud of the team when we lose. And some of you may be sitting there thinking, how can you ever be proud when you lose? What he means by that is you're not going to win every game. It's just not going to happen. So, as I said, empty the tank. He wants to know that his team have gone out there, had the right attitude, worked hard and put their all into it. If you put your everything into something and you don't win, it's because the other team on the day was better than you when you gave your all, and that he can accept. He was saying he's had, you know, Champions League semi-finals and things like that where he's lost penalty shootouts. It's a penalty shootout, do you know what I mean? We know it's a lottery. But he was happy because his team put everything into it. That's all he's asking for. And when you're paid the kind of money that they're on, how can you not be motivated to go out there and put your all in? He also said that, you know, there's more than ever now selfish interests. They have agents that are in their ears all the time. The press, and they're doing this with Harry Kane, saying, oh, he's one of the best strikers in the world, in Europe. He needs to win trophies, blah, 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 blah. Back off, let him make his own decision. He doesn't have to move if he doesn't want to. You know, the fact that he's being called one of the best strikers in the world, whilst he's at a club that aren't winning trophies, is a massive compliment in itself. It doesn't mean he lacks ambition. It might be the fact that he just wants to help take this club that he supports, and his family are all Spurs supporters, and push them on. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not questioning his ambition. And on top of that, there aren't really many clubs that can afford him, especially in the Premier League, other than Man City and maybe Chelsea. And Man United, but they'd have to shuffle the pack a little bit. Which means a move abroad. And then he's not going to break that Alan Shearer record because he's not going to be in the Premier League. Now, is he going to want that? I don't know. Up to him. But yeah, Jose was saying selfish interest, it's a lot of it's about the money and things like that. They've got to make as much money as they can. Oh, I don't want to be on 30 grand a week. I want to be on 200 grand a week because such and such at that club, who isn't as good a player as me, is on that money. And that's just the way things are becoming football. Jose also said that he didn't actually watch the Hugo Lloris interview / rant. He would have been made aware of what was said, I'm pretty sure. But, it's Hugo's opinion, and that was showing passion. Passion is what he wanted. So whether he watches it or not, I don't think he's going to care. He's going to be happy that he's passionate and peed off that we've been playing the way we have. As for the selection, he said, it was a bit conflicting here. He actually said he wanted angry people, but then also said he wanted fresh and positive feelings. I'm not sure angry and positive kind of go in the same sentence, but I get where he's coming from. There's players that deserve to play, haven't been in the squad, haven't actually been the players that have put us on this downward spiral. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be fresh. Put them out there. He said that he put the kids on the bench because for them it's they're living a dream. And if you put them on the pitch for 10 seconds, they will put their all into that 10 seconds. It will be like the last 10 seconds of their career. So I understand that, but he didn't have to use them anyway because the players on the pitch showed plenty of passion and determination. But essentially what he was trying to put across is he wants people on the pitch who feel the game is important. I don't mean the game as in football. I mean the game is that particular game that they're playing. A Champions League final. Yes, very important. But you have to win those games to get there. And all of those games need to be seen as important by these players. And that's what he got. And he actually said Kane and Vinicius were our best defenders in the game. I mean, I wouldn't go as far to say they were our best defenders, but they definitely contributed a lot. That was from the front, in our box. But Lucas Moura, very important for the defence as well. So, Jose's a happy guy. Just something a bit light-hearted and fun to note that on the bench there seemed high spirits. Dele's been in and out of the squad this season. He suffered a very hard time. But he did look more cheerful on the bench. He was sitting there next to Joe Hart. Obviously had cold hands because he was wearing Joe Hart's goalie gloves. And the commentators made a joke about, he may be wearing them because he can't get on the pitch as a midfielder. Maybe he could go on the pitch as a goalkeeper. But yeah, he was doing that to keep warm. And then they mugged him off afterwards because he was wearing sliders on his feet, or flip-flops, as some of you may call them. And it just isn't that defeating the object? Hands warm, cold feet. Obviously, we know the reason he was wearing sliders is because, one, they're comfy, and two, you just slide them off to then put your boots on. You haven't got to faff about with trainers and things like that. But yeah, that was quite funny. And about Vinicius, obviously I've said many times, I think he's a good player. I like him. He needs more minutes. He has scored 9 goals in 9 starts for Spurs. Do you know what I mean? What more can the guy do? And I know people are saying, it was the Europa League, inferior opposition. It was the cup game against Marine. But the fact is, he hasn't had the chances against the other teams. So we don't know whether he can put the ball in the back of the net against them. But the fact is, Mourinho said a few times he likes him, but hasn't been using him, and he's proven 9 starts, 9 goals. And of those 9 goals, they were from 12 shots on target. So that's only 3 times he shot on target and the ball hasn't gone into the back of the net. Now that tells me he's in the right place at the right time. He knows where the back of the net is, and when he gets the opportunity, more often than not, he puts it in the right areas of the goal. So if that's not a case for him to start more games, I don't know what is. I don't know what else he has to do. Now, whether we're going to buy him or not, I don't know, because it's an expensive price and he is now 26, but he's entering those years between 26 and 30, where he's essentially in the prime of his career. There's still time to develop, especially in the English game. Don't know whether we'll sign him. Obviously, the whole foreign players thing comes into that. Depends who else is available in the summer, because if we can find someone English that's going to cost roughly the same amount or cheaper that we know is proven, then we're more likely to go for them. But I would not be disappointed if we did sign him. Very good backup. And I kind of want to leave it on that note because I'm very, very happy with the performance. Is it going to be a one-off? I mean, we don't know. But the fact is, this is proof to Jose that he should rotate the squad more, because the players that he's rotated in did very well. They were hungry. I'm not saying we should consistently use these players, because this might be enough for those star players to get that stick from out their backsides and start playing, because these guys have proven that they are ready to fight and put themselves on that team sheet. So guys, let that be a warning to you. But there we go. That's the video today. Very happy. We're still in the hunt for that Champions League spot. Just hopefully the teams around us drop some points. We keep winning, creep up on them. Pretty much everyone's fit once Sonny comes back from the international break. We know he's going to come back into the squad. And with the other hunger around, the youngsters coming in, Sanchez stepping up in that back line, the future could be positive. So let's get behind the players, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. You can turn on the bell notifications if you want. And as always, stay safe and come on you Spurs.